on everybody, this is Martin Stokes here.
And this is Dean Scurry.
And I am a traveller.
And I am a countryman.
Welcome to A Traveller
and a Countryman
podcast.
Okay, so in this episode, I'm interested in going back a little bit. Back to when your parents were young, when you probably weren't even born yet, and when travellers in this country lived on the side of the road. It was around the same time that there was legislation in this country, the Itinerancy Act and so on, around 1963. And I'm just interested in, is there any stories or any information you have about that time in Ireland? About travellers, about how travellers lived and what they done and what was it like? What was the day-to-day of a traveller like?
Well, let's put it this way. I got a bit of information from, my mother, right? And we would have gone back to when she got married, which is back in 1965, yeah? And back then, times were, without a doubt, rough, no mistake about that, yeah? And of course, living conditions and daily life also, you know what I mean? But the thing about it was, anyway, she was married at 16 years of age.
16 years of age.
16 years old.
In 1965?
In 1965. My father was 19 years old back then.
So is your mammy still alive now?
She's alive. My dad will be dead now about, nearly 4.5 years now.
And can I ask, tell me now, but can I ask what age your mammy is?
She's 73 now. She's 73, but as I said, she was married at 16 years of age, yeah?
And does she live where you live?
She lives where I live now, yes.
Oh, happy days. So some of the information that you have about what happened then, you got it straight from her mouth. Well,
yes, that's right.
Perfect.
Because obviously it was way too far back for me to know, like, you know what I mean? Thing about it was, anyway, married at 16, my dad was 19, and they lived in a tent on the side of the road, basically. It was an arranged wedding. You know what an arranged wedding is, yeah? Right, you do, yeah.
I do know what it is. So you have, let me see can I explain it. You've got two families,
yes,
and the heads of the two families, the daddies or whatever,
yes,
they spot, if you have a son, you're going to go to the other fella,
back
the other
then,
daddy,
yes,
and get a woman, and vice
well,
versa.
Even worse again, when my mother's say her wedding was, as you call it, her wedding was drew down. That's what they call it. Her wedding was drew down. Yeah,
drew down.
That's what they call it. Yeah,
yeah.
But when her wedding was arranged, she was at home.
What does drew down mean? Let's go back to drew down.
Drew down mean that the wedding was matched.
Okay,
if you understand.
And what do you mean then? She was at home.
She was at home when say, let's say my father asked a wedding, basically. Even worse again, probably the two older, say, both of my grandfathers now would have been.
Yeah,
now,
okay.
Yeah. God rest them, yeah.
So your daddy's mammy and your mammy's mammy?
Yes. Yeah, my father's father and my mother's father, they, at the time, basically would have arranged the wedding, if you know what I mean. And so she was at home, basically didn't even know she was getting married. This is her words, right? And
16 years of age.
Yeah.
And what part of the world were they in?
So I'll tell you where they were. They were in a little village called Mohill in County Leitrim.
And they were living. Was it all the one camp?
No, they were in camps, but they were in different camps. Like they were no more than 3 or 4 miles away from each other, basically. And of course, as I said, the wedding was drew down anyway. It was arranged, and she was at home. And next then, when say, of course, her parents, which is my grandparents, come home and told her she was getting married, so she didn't really have a clue about it.
Did she know what marriage was?
Well, at 16 years of age, she probably would have knew what marriage was, but I don't know if she would have been, if she was actually interested in even getting married at that age, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And of course, she was probably told.
Probably didn't realise it was a lifelong contract.
Well, she did in the end. But they got married anyway, and of course, whatever, I don't know, would it be weeks after? I think back then, the weddings when they were drew down, as we call it, drew down, weddings arranged, that they could be married in a very short space of time. And I don't think it would have been months. I think it was weeks. Being honest about it.
Bish, bash, bosh.
So there would have been very little preparations. I think it was all about just going to the church, getting them married, and literally sending them home. So in her case, yes, she was sent home. the day of her wedding, she was told that her and I think is one of her other sisters.
So that was the traditional honeymoon in Mohill in 1965.
Well, I tell you what the honeymoon was now. The honeymoon was an ass and cart. You know what an ass and cart is?
Yeah, a donkey and a cart.
Well, yeah, but you know the flat traps they call them, yeah?
Yeah.
I think that's what they call them now. We don't see much of them now anyway. But so she was told to get onto the what do you call it? The cart, if you like.
Yeah.
Her and the sister, and just make their way home. Now home mightn't have been a mile away or whatever, I don't know. But they lived in a tent. Now there would have been other family at home, like there would have been a bigger there was a big family there, like.
So sent home from the church.
Sent home from the church.
Yeah.
And then on her way home, what do you think happens? Some young lad was throwing stones from a hedge,
Yeah.
from a ditch as we call it, and got her one right in the side of the eye.
Your mammy.
So she got a lovely present on the day of her wedding.
That was a honeymoon present.
Yeah, she got a black eye on her way home from the church, just after being married at 16 years of age.
Wow.
But that was her. That's what happened there.
And would the men have been? The men have gone out for a drink or down the pub or anything like that?
The parents did.
So hold on, your mammy didn't go out celebrating. She had to go back to the tent.
She had to go home to the tent.
And the parents went out celebrating.
The parents went and had a few drinks, but you can only imagine the drinking back then. Like as far as you know, it was only a couple of bottles. Like, you know what I mean?
What do you mean?
And there was no big celebration.
It wasn't big heavy drinking.
No, but you go back to 1965. It's years back, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so on home with the business anyway. Yeah, the parents did go on and have a few drinks and then home again, whatever. That was basically there, and from there then, of course, next day it was like setting up their own tent. Then the best way of saying it. Because that's what they lived in.
Now, when you say tents...
When she was with her... I tell you what. When she was with her parents...
Yeah.
Now, at times, they'd have the what do you call them...
Explain to me the tent. Because
the tent was...
Like a tent... Like, if there's people listening to this, they're going to think a tent is you go into the camping shop or the army shop and you pick up a tent for 50 quid.
No, they didn't have that comforts back then. They didn't have that kind of quality. Like, what the tent was, an old cover of any type.
Like a cover off a truck.
Could have been sackcloth, could have been a cover off an old truck, covers that maybe the farmers used, all that sort of stuff.
Tarpaulin or something.
Yes. And then they get, they call them wattles. Now, a wattle would have been a stick from the forest. So they bring out and they'd pierce them and clean the sticks up basically. So they could have maybe anything between 10 and 20 wattles, maybe more. But it was like a branch from a tree. So that wattle then was they tied into a bunch, and they leave them, say, depending how much time they had to prepare a tent. They would they'd leave it till it sort of got soft, but 9 times out of 10 they'd leave it in water. So if there was a lake or a river or a stream nearby, they'd let it sit in that.
Like you would do with like.
So when the wood got soft, then they had no bother bending the wattles like you see how the shape of tents are these days, right?
Yeah.
Obviously they're round.
Oh, so those wattles would be the poles of a tent.
They would be like the poles to hold the
structure,
the cover up.
Yeah,
so they'd be sunk on both sides through the grass, say there, whatever.
So it's like what you do with willow if you're making if you're weaving a basket or something like that. You'd wet it, you'd keep it wet so it'd bend and it wouldn't snap.
Well, it's probably an old thing, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is some of them would have barrel top wagons, which would be horse drawn.
Fancy.
Well, if they had anyone that had one back then, of course, yeah, they had something good, like, you know what I mean? Same story. They'd actually make them themselves. The travellers used to genuinely make them themselves.
Yeah.
And the same story again. They get the materials. Only this time, this was on wheels, wooden wheels. You know what I mean?
Like what most people would think is like an old traditional wagon. Yeah, that's just
but the fact that they were all handmade. Like the modern wagons today, I'm not saying there is modern wagons. There is one or two around, like, you know what I mean? And the wood on them that would be used, chances are it was factory wood.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that for sure.
Yeah.
But they'd be in very good. You could see them in very good condition and well carved, if you know what I mean. and all maybe tree hit timber kind of stuff. But back then they had to use the same story. They'd use lats as they call them, and again wattles also, for to make this tent. But it was to make this wagon.
Yeah.
But it was still handmade.
So they handmade the whole lot of it.
Every bit of it was handmade. Yes.
Probably no suspension on it, just
there
wooden
wouldn't
wheels.
be no suspension. Wooden wheels, as you said.
And drawn along by what? A horse?
Everything was literally made out of wood, yes. And then, as you said, a lot with the horse would drag them for wherever they go on. Times they mightn't move very far. They could travel 3, 5, maybe 10 miles.
So this, how many years ago is this now?
1965, yes.
60 years ago, yeah.
And from 1965 up. But also then probably beforehand, naturally beforehand, because
yeah.
we're only talking about my mother here in this sense where... But I am saying is that it wasn't... This is not just about, say, my mother or, say, my grandparents on both sides. It would have been a lot of travellers. This was tradition, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, this is how I would imagine in 1965 how all travellers in Ireland lived.
Yes, that's right.
On the side of a road with wagons and tents.
That's right.
In a field or at the side of a ditch.
Well, any spot they got to pull in and park. Say if they got a nice level spot on the side of the road, maybe where there's a bit of grass or something.
And it wouldn't be like now where you've got big layboys and motorways and all that.
Let's put it this way: if they were travelling back then on the roads, and they happened to spot a layboy, but the thing about it, the roads back then there probably was no.
That's what I'm saying. There wouldn't be layboys, motorways, even dual carriageways were a new thing then.
Probably going back that far, there probably wouldn't be. Maybe the very, very odd just little spot in of the road.
Sure, the main road when I was a young man, the main road to Derry or to Belfast or to Galway was single lane, double lane sometimes. Yes. No dual carriageway really.
No, but in the later years, then obviously they start improving the roads.
Yeah.
So if you went back, like we're going back 1965, what's that? How many years is that back now?
60 years.
That's 60 years back. So suppose we went back like 40 years.
Yeah. There
was a bit of improvement in the roads then, if you know what I mean. Now, a big lot of things probably didn't change. But in the line of layboys, you probably would have layboys back at that kind of time. But you'd have them on the main roads.
I'm going to take a step back.
Go ahead.
Your family in Moat Hill, is that where it is? Moat Hill.
County Leitrim,
County Leitrim. Your grandparents were there.
That's where they were living. So, now, ask me where they came from. I do not know.
You don't know.
But I know that I'm being told that's where they were living back then.
And your mammy doesn't know.
Well, I didn't ask her that question.
All right, well, yeah,
I didn't ask her where they came from before this, like, you know what I mean?
So at that time, they had a camp there, and your grandparents' family name was what? On your mammy's side?
On my mother's side was McDonough.
Yeah.
And her parents, her mother's parents, obviously her father's parents were McDonough, but her mother's parents were Haney.
Haney,
yes.
Yeah. So you're half
McDonough.
Yeah.
I'm Stokes, half McDonough, and then back Haney then to on my
Where does Stokes
side.
come from? That's your daddy's.
Stokes is my father is obviously Stokes.
Yeah.
And of course his father was Stokes, but his mother was McDonough also. Which is my grandmother again, basically.
Yeah. So I never heard Haney before.
No, Haney. I don't know if it's a big. I don't know if it's a big population in travellers.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know where that name emerged from, as a fellow would say. You know
Stokes is a big name.
Stokes is a big name, yeah.
Obviously, McDonough is a big name.
Although you have names,
you
still have, let's say, for instance, how do I say this? Just say take McDonough, right?
Yeah.
You still have different breeds of McDonoughs, if you know if it makes any sense.
Yeah, it kind of
You
does,
have Stokes again, you have different breeds of Stokeses, you know, different breeds of whatever Collinses, whatever names, say, there's lots of names of travellers, you know what I mean? Amongst, even though travellers are travellers, some of them have, let's say, some of them might have different ways of living, if you know what I'm saying.
So, your parents, Moat Hill,
County Leitrim.
Yeah. 1965, there was an arranged marriage, Drew Down.
Yeah.
She had, there was a wedding in the morning. The parents went off and had a drink. She went back down the road. She got a stone in the eye off a young fella.
She went home.
Where's your daddy?
Probably in the pub.
Right.
No, I think the young lad was okay to go with
He's 19 years of age.
He's 19 years of age, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was okay for him to go and have one or two.
Right. And is he working or is she doing any work? Or
no, back then there was no work.
Yeah.
There was, let's say work was very, very, very hard to find because you're saying how did they survive?
How did they survive? Yeah. How do they feed themselves?
Well, I'll tell you what. Back then there was a lot of like me two grandfathers, right, on both sides, my mother's side and my father's side. They had this craft of making tinsmiths. They were tinsmiths.
Oh, very good.
So they could make all types of say cans.
Yeah.
Cups, if you like.
Buckets,
kettles. There was a lot of...
We used to have this thing in the house. It was like a little tin coal bunker.
You probably got to have one of the travellers.
And it was like a little embroidered or tapped out scene on it. You know what I mean? Like a little country scene or something like that.
Would you know it was sort of handmade, like that?
They were handmade. We got from the travellers here in St. Margaret's.
Well, then that's what it was. It had to be handmade then at this stage.
And they were like a polished tin.
Yeah.
Like a reddish or a goldish kind of tin.
But that's what they used to do. They used to do making all that stuff, the tinsmiths, basically. They were classed as tinsmiths, basically.
So is that where
and they had very few tools to do that with.
Is that where the name Tinker came from, do you think?
Tinker, I'm not sure where the name Tinker came from.
Yeah.
Surviving was very hard for them, without a doubt. Because back then there was no unemployment, right? And there was no work.
Mm-hmm.
So...
as in there was no unemployment payment? Because you didn't go down to the dole office and get money?
There was none of that.
Yeah.
There was none of that back then. They couldn't do that. Nobody could do that. Even the settlement couldn't do it, let alone the traveller.
Yeah.
But in the working side of it. So when you talk about travellers being tinkers, they were thinking in a way where they had to survive.
Yeah.
So they got out and the women of them would literally beg. They had to beg. They had no choice to beg back then. This is, as I said, coming from my mother here, right? And the shawl was out and they'd go from house to house. Mainly it was like from farm to farm, the best way of saying it. And they could maybe knock on one house now and maybe it could be another 3 minutes down the road, another house. There wouldn't be houses, wouldn't be like today, how they're stuck to each other. Like,
but you'd be down the country, they'd be miles apart.
Yeah, but even worse than back then. And so they go and ask for a bit of whatever. That'll be a bit of flour, a bit of sugar, or mainly the reason that it hit the farmhouses was because the farmers were obviously having growing their own foods, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, majority of it, like. The milk, for starters, they had the cows for the milk. Butter, say the eggs. So they could be lucky enough in one house to get maybe a basket of bits and pieces that they were looking for, kind of thing.
But then do you think they would come in and trade with them? Like, we'll do, I'll fix your buckets or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of that would have happened.
I'll sharpen up your old tools.
They might swap a few. They could be carrying a few bits and pieces with them that was made up, and the chances are that they'd get swaps for stuff like that as well. Yes.
Because when I was a young fella, let's say 40 years ago in Ballymun, there was some travellers living here up where you are, St. Margaret's, and they used to knock around and they'd have different services, like they'd sharpen the lawnmower or they'd sharpen the scissors or they'd sell. There was a fella came around doing the eggs.
Yeah. What was it, sharpening the eggs?
Sharpening the eggs, yeah. And they would take old clothes as well. If there was any old clothes. Now, we didn't have much ourselves, but if you had an old couple of jumpers or a pair of shoes or something like that, they take them off you and use them for themselves, or they also done repairs on them. You could leave your shoes and get repaired like a shoe. What do you call it? What's the fella who fixes shoes? Cobbler.
Thing about it is, anyway, that's where it comes in, where one man's trash was another man's goods. Like clothes that people didn't want. And if you could get somebody to find use for them, very good. And of course then, as I said, travellers back then was, without a doubt, very happy to accept that.
Yeah.
Because it was their means of living. So they didn't have any choices. Even if they didn't like even going from door to door begging.
Yeah.
They didn't have a choice like only do that.
Yeah. Because
there was no other way of providing for themselves or for their families.
Well, it's how they lived. It's how generations after generations lived.
Yes.
It wasn't like they had a different way of living. It wasn't like they were all working in factories and then decided we're not going to do this anymore.
No, it's
How they
right.
lived was on the side of the road. How they lived was they travelled. They went from town to town. They went from camp to camp. What I can remember was that up until a certain point, as you call him, the countryman had great respect for the travelling man.
The countryman, yes, at the time he would have, yes. Well, let's put it this way: if they mightn't get the same respect in every house, but the house that they did get respect was obviously decent people that was looking after them,
Yeah.
helping them out in a sense where someone's coming to your door, and they're like whatever they need, food or they need clothes or whatever it might be.
So tell me more about what your mammy told you. From when she was a young one, from what they done or
What happened
what she
then-
remembers.
No, in the later years, then what happened was she ended up then basically after a while, him and her moved. They went on and moved over to England.
Right.
So then my mother's parents, which is my grandparents again, on the mother's side, they moved into a house in County Leitrim, in Mohall.
So your mother and father went over to England.
Because they had a big family still, you see, they say the grandparents.
Yeah.
So my mother and father, as a young man and woman, moved over to England, and over there, my father.
So hold on, where did they go in England?
Like they were moving from place to place. They would have been like around Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester.
So similar to what my parents were doing.
There's probably 20 names of places I could
That's
mention.
what my man and dad done as well.
Birmingham.
They were married. They went off to Manchester, Liverpool,
Places like that,
Wales, London.
Yeah.
But
the main reason,
some places were a bit easier and some places were a bit tougher.
Well, the main reason they would have moved to England back then was because my father was looking for a bit of work.
Yeah.
And he got work over there. He started working on the building sites. But then, depending how long that would last, and if the work was finished, then he'd move along somewhere else and find.
It's a very similar story to my father. That's what he done. That's what my ma done. She worked in like a hotel in Wales, and my dad would have worked in building sites in Manchester.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this I know this for a fact. This happened anyway, because he would have been away. One of his uncles was over there, and still one or two more friends over there also with him, and they all used to work on the one building site back around that time, like basically. Yeah, you might say life was a little bit better for them because when they got over there, they weren't in a caravan. Then they got into a house. You see.
Okay.
So that was a bit of a change. And then, of course, through the later years, then we say.
So they would have no experience probably in a house.
No,
little experience working.
no,
they're only kids.
because my mother would at this stage wouldn't have lived in a house.
Yeah.
My father didn't live in a house; he lived in a tent. There was no such thing as a caravan back then. The only caravan was what I told you, the barrel top wagons.
Yeah.
Back then. So they had to say that's what they would have lived in as well as the tents.
And where was the house that your ma and dad lived in?
That would have been in England.
Yeah, where was that?
I wouldn't really
You
know.
don't
I
know.
know that they were in different parts of England,
Yeah.
and I mentioned a few of them there, but they were in other parts of England also.
Yeah.
So the chances are that they didn't stay long in one place, because it would have been dependent on what kind of work he got. So if the work was finished, they had no choice to move along somewhere else, wherever the work was again.
And where was their...
And this was happening for a long time over there. They were moving all around, even though they were in England.
While they were there in England, where were their folks?
No, I'll tell you what happened then. Yeah, me father's father and mother, God rest them as well. They moved to England. I think it was in the later years. Now it could have been anything up to 2 to 4 years after. Now I'm not 100% sure, but I know sort of in that kind of time. And they moved to, I think they moved around. I think it was Bradford they moved to in England, and of course they got into a house. So that was a change for them from. Now on the other hand, and then they moved from there again back to Ireland again, basically, and of course it was back into tents again, and horse-drawn caravans. We call them the
wagons,
the bar top wagon. Now by this time, My other grandparents, God rest them, were in a house in Mohill then.
Okay, yeah.
So they moved into a house, but they spent their entire lives in the house then. They spent the rest of their lives in that house.
And that's kind of where we get the
a big
name
family
Settled
there.
Traveller.
Yeah, that's right. You could say
It was around that time.
Yeah, well, you could say then they became settled travellers, yeah, because they settled into a house, of course.
Yeah.
Although they were still travellers.
Yeah.
Because as their families grew up then, they started moving along, moving all around Ireland in caravans. And then a lot of them ended up in England then also. But then they would have been over and back to and from England, and probably still are. And, they are still using caravans.
Yeah.
So it's very, very hard in a sense to get, what did they say? You can take the man out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the man, is it?
That's the one, yeah.
Something like that. So it's the same with a caravan.
Yeah.
Travellers will, let's say, when I say always be in caravans, right up to now, travellers are in caravans. So I'm in a caravan myself, and basically all my life in a caravan.
And there's something obviously about a caravan, because I know a lot of settled people and they have caravans down in the country in different caravan sites, and they love it.
I'll tell you, there's
a little break down to Bettystown or down to Cortown or something like that, and it's the highlight of their year, like.
Yeah, that's right. I know what you're saying. There's them sort of holiday camps all over the world now. Anyway,
yeah. We go to them in France every couple of years, like.
Yeah, but you don't class yourself as travellers.
No, but when you do go in there into the caravans, it's nice.
No, I'll tell you what's nice about the caravan. You're saying there, you just said there's something good about the caravan.
Yeah.
What's good about the caravan is the freedom side of it. So you have that sense. You can move when you want to move. A house, of course, you can go out of your house and go where you want also. But there's something about the caravan that gives you that much more freedom. I think, my experience anyway, I live in a caravan, yeah? I'd probably be more times, not that I go far, be more times outside of it than inside of it. So that's a sense of freedom.
Yeah.
All my undertakings are outside the caravan, if you know what I'm saying. Whereas a house, if you're in a house, everything about your life is inside the door of the house.
You're in the house more than you're not in the house.
Yeah, you're in more. You spend more time inside than outside of it.
And in the caravan, it's smaller. There's less rooms, and everyone's closer together.
I think they want to get outside for some reason.
But you know what I mean?
In a house, think like for instance you're in a caravan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like just that bit of fresh air. You walk out, and you'll always see somebody out there just to have a chat. I don't think you get much of that in a house, do you?
It depends on where the house is. Like when we grew up here in Ballymun, you're in your neighbours as much as you're in your own house. You're knocking in. There's people all over the place. In certain places, there's different sizes of communities or different, just a different community.
Yeah, but you probably get that in poorer areas. Would I be right?
In working class areas, yeah, because you've got
their doors are locked.
You don't have a pot to piss in, so you're in your neighbours and you're looking for favours and a couple of quid or an old bit of bread or whatever like that. Yeah, definitely. When I grew up here in the 80s, it was all about close knit families and communities together. Yeah, it's kind of similar to what I would get if I went on to like a camp or in a halting site. We were all on top of each other, but it was good crack. Yeah, but that'd be down to I think to the poor side of life. Yeah,
being honest about. And I think in the poor side of life, there's more generosity and more caring about each other. Whereas you go into an area, this is with all due respect, you go into an area there and people's doors are simply closed. They don't want to know anybody. They don't want to mix with anybody. They don't want to help anybody. There's a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, well, I've seen both sides of it now because I grew up in Ballymun and I lived in a few different places. But right now, I live behind like a gated community where it's all like middle class people in their apartments, and basically they get up, go open the door, go to work, come back from work, close the door, and that's it. And there's not much mingling. There's not much chat beyond what's going on, hello, is that your dog, basic stuff. It wouldn't be like I get more community out of going onto your site and having chats with you than I would I get more community in a week on your site than I would where I live now in a year.
Because you're in a yuppie posh area, is that it?
Yeah, it's a very middle class area. It's like behind a gate. It's one of those gated communities.
So basically, people are more private and keeping to themselves a lot.
Well, money, my way of looking at it is money buys you privacy and security.
At the same time, aren't they locking themselves away? Because that's what we're talking about, the freedom of a caravan. So you buy a big house, you get big security gates, you lock the gates, you lock your house, you're inside for whatever length you're in there. If you're going to work, fine, it's the same story. You come from there, you're home again. It means you don't have a life. You don't see anybody. You don't get to mix with anybody.
But that's what they're doing. That's what they're into. That's to use a word. That's their culture.
But it is their culture. But is there not a lot of selfishness involved in it? No.
Look, I think that's what people.
Is it a way they choose
what people
to live?
work for?
Is it a way they choose to
I
live?
think it is a choice. I don't think they know anything else. I don't think they know anything else. I don't think they have ever probably experienced what you've experienced or what I experienced, for example, growing up in a working class council estate in Ballymun.
Yes.
That experience that we have, not everybody has that. Not everybody sees life like that. Especially in, well-to-do, upper middle class communities. Definitely not. People are behind their own doors. Well, that's what I can see anyway. I can see much more community in the travelling community or somewhere like Ballymun than I can, for example, in Portmarnock.
So, what you're saying is more lively. There's more livelihood. In a sense, yes, because it's people. We're talking about people here.
What do you mean more livelihood?
There's more livelihood because people are out and about. They're mixing, they're talking, they're chatting, they're saying hello. You don't get that in the other areas we're talking about.
No, it's you don't, absolutely. There's where I am, there's a couple of kids and they play around a little bit, but if they were doing what we were doing when we were kids, running them up and climbing trees, and somebody would have something to say about it. Where if I go up to St. Margaret's, there's kids doing all types of stuff, and they're just out being kids, snotty nosed, full of cuts and bruises, climbing up the side of trees, doing all types of stuff. That's the stuff that we grew up with.
So it was similar to a traveller's lifestyle in a certain way. Not everything, but some of it.
The way that I grew up.
Well, slightly, yeah.
Yeah, very, very similar. I had differences. One of the big differences that I might talk about, when I was in school here in Ballymun in primary school, like you had your normal classes, first class, second class, third class. But within each of them, you had like a separate class for traveller children.
Right.
And that was a difference. That was an obvious difference that I noticed when I was a kid. For some reason, there was traveller children in this school were treated differently. And I'm sure it wasn't just the school that I was in. I'm sure it was the time.
In what schools?
That was a primary school in Ballymun.
And that's gone back how long?
That was, say, 40 years ago. And there was for no reason other than they were travellers.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're gonna have a special, almost like a special class. So that was a difference that I would have noticed. In institutions like schools, traveller children were treated differently.
Right.
But outside when we were playing, I didn't notice any difference. Sure, we're all the same. We were all full of cuts and bruises and nuts.
So I was saying it was the adults that was causing the problems then.
Yeah, well, like what we discussed about in 1963 with the Itinerancy Act. That was a group of adults, mainly middle-class adults who were working in politics, who were making decisions about getting rid of the travelling people. And which our mammy, being an idealistic 16-year-old woman living in the side of a tent, there's people in this country wanted to get rid of her.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
Your parents and your grandparents.
They want to get rid of all travellers.
They want to get rid of you. They want to get rid of the idea that you could have children.
Yeah.
That's fascinating when you get into that part. Beyond all the romantic ideas that we have of what it used to be like to be a traveller. Yeah. There was a group of people in this country in Ireland in 1963 onward, around the same time in America when people were going through civil rights movements, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, the same time up in Northern Ireland where people were fighting for civil rights. The government in this country were trying to eliminate traveller people. Now, we get sick when we think of a man at the moment in Europe who's trying to do the same thing with Ukrainian people. That sickens us all to the fact where our most prominent politicians and celebrities almost fly over to Ukraine. Bono just done a gig in Ukraine.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen that thing.
And in Ireland, still to this day, other than a couple of sheets of paper to say that travelling people have their own ethnicity, it's kind of the same as it used to be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
kind of the travelling people is separate. Keep them over there, and let's not even discuss them.
No, a lot of there's still another thing going on with travellers that basically shouldn't be what's going on, in the line of the way travellers are treated generally. The fact that travellers are living in sites is bad enough, but they choose to live in sites. They want to live in sites.
Yeah.
But living conditions of the sites that the government actually own, say the councils basically.
That you're a tenant of.
Yes, that's right. That's where there is a problem also, because travellers has that choice. If they want to live in a caravan, fine. If they don't want to live in a caravan, move off it. But the fact that they do want to keep that tradition going, and they're happy living in caravans, conditions are the problem.
Well, it's like when I grew up in the flats here in Ballymun at some point, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we paid rent to Dublin City Council. And we held up our end of the bargain.
Yes.
Paying rent.
And the travellers do the same.
And travellers do the same. But it seemed like the council and the state didn't hold up their end of the bargain.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
When it comes to keeping the place maintained.
Keeping it maintained, treating people differently just
That's
because of the area you're from. You know, almost having two separate societies.
That's
One
right.
is, you know, travellers and working class people, and then you have kind of what was called the middle class or the educated class.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, it boils back down to one thing, which is called discrimination.
Yeah.
It is.
And what I find it interesting is that you came in today with stories from your mammy about when she grew up where there wasn't the opportunity for those people to talk about the discrimination. They didn't have the same privileges we have or that you have. Your mammy couldn't have opened up her mouth. Your daddy couldn't have opened up his mouth the way that we can. And it probably wasn't spoke about. There was a load of stuff back then
That's right.
that wasn't spoke about. Discrimination is just one of the things.
That's right. And it's probably not as bad as it used to be, but it is an ongoing thing. Too bad this day and age that travellers are still experiencing this. At the end of the day, travellers are a part of Irish society. We are Irish people, like.
And no matter what we think or what we choose not to tune into, they're not going anywhere.
No,
we can ignore them, just like we could ignore the fact that there is cliffs over in Galway called the Cliffs of Moher. But they're not going anywhere.
No, that's right.
The Giants Causeway isn't going anywhere, even if the tourists don't turn up. The travelling people is not going anywhere.
No.
Travelling people are here to stay. They're part of us. They're part of Irish society.
I think a lot of it comes from because of the way travellers choose to live. The basic fact is that they choose to be travellers, and that's it. There's not a big lot of difference in what they do, basically. Only the fact that, as I said, they're living in caravans, but it's what they choose to do, and I think they're within their rights to do so.
Yeah, well, look, as we said, upper middle class people choose to live in big gated communities.
That's right, because they have the options and the choices.
You know, but then the finger is pointed at, say, for example, travelling people. You don't pay your taxes and you rob. Sure, I know the biggest robbers and biggest tax avoiders, as I said before, this country is upper middle class people, politicians and businessmen.
And they're not travellers.
And they're probably robbing more in one day than a whole halting site of travellers would rob in a year.
Yeah, that's right. It's called what? Daylight robbery, is it?
Daylight robbery. But it's easy just to tune into a specific radio station going la 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 la. I don't understand travellers. I don't think about them. I don't respect them. I'm just going to stay over in my corner of Ireland and let them do what they want.
That's right.
Let them kill themselves, or let them all, as your man says, who was running for president, let them all just move into the Phoenix Park there, and we'll re-educate them.
That's right.
An Irish fellow running for president said that within the last 4 or 5 years. Let's all move them up there to Michael D in the Phoenix Park, and we can re-educate them.
And got away with it as well.
And got away with it. And nearly got voted in as the president.
Yeah.
Are we having is this a circus show or what?
We were in some trouble then, weren't we? If the likes of him had to be voted in for president, huh?
Well, I tell you what, we're disgusted at a similar fella who's bombing a free democratic country
That's
in
right,
Ukraine. Yeah. But a fella can come on wanting to be the president of Ireland, saying, I have the... Charlie had the final solution, I've got the next solution, throw them up into the big park there.
Complete disgrace, to tell you the truth.
So,
did he actually think that was going to solve a problem? Because it wouldn't.
Well, it would have solved the problem for him. He would have been the president of Ireland, so he would have been grand. I sound like I'm getting a bit angry there, but I'm not. Well, I'm really interested in how we see each other, how we choose to treat each other, because it is a choice.
Yeah.
We can think we're going around blind with our eyes closed.
At the same time, thanks be to God, there's only one of him. We don't have a million like him, you know what I mean?
And as you said
there
before...
There might be a few, but not a million.
As you said before, Charlie tried to get rid of you, but who's gone now?
Charlie tried to get rid of Travellers, but Charlie's not here. Yeah, as I said, he's not here. He's not... Travellers are still around, Charlie is not. But and your man that we're talking about there now as well, he's not here either, is he?
No,
well, let's say...
He's quiet now, the microphone's being turned off.
Let's say, thanks be to God, he has no say over Travellers, because life wouldn't be good having him as a president.
So listening to you there, it sounds like you are proud of the stories that your mammy told you. That you have the stories, that you have someone there to talk to and to listen to and to hear the stories.
Yes.
And it sounds like you want people to hear those stories, to hear how it was.
Well, put it straight, today things are a little bit different today for Travellers in the line of the younger and up-and-coming generation, basically. Take the 40 and 50-year-olds, right? And going back, say, 20 and 30 years, they weren't, the weddings are not arranged as much now as they used to be. Probably, if not at all. The normal procedure would be a young lad asked the parents, like, okay to ask the girl kind of thing. And then, of course, if the girl said yes, that was fine. But there was no saying you're getting married or making her get married or going on for a pub and drawing down a wedding for a boy and girl is not even there kind of thing. That's all worn out now. That's all gone, basically. And
there's a number of things, not just that are changing in the travelling community.
There is. There's a lot of stuff changing in the Travellers, yeah.
Now, some of the stuff is the same, but it's the same everywhere. In the settled community, there's still things that we don't, but society is changing. Society is changing fast. Like, I remember the big thing in our house when we were kids was sitting down and we'd watch the 6 o'clock news together and we'd call it Air News. That kind of doesn't happen that much now, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Other than maybe through lockdown where we were all kind of see was the sky going to fall down. But generally, that tradition of the Irish family sitting around the television waiting to be told what the news was for the day is gone. And in the travelling community, weddings aren't arranged. There's other things that are changing as well. One thing we discussed before, we have traveller politicians, traveller guards, traveller teachers, travellers in college, travellers on the television, travellers doing podcasts. Yep.
Good. Yeah. The podcast is another step, isn't it?
The podcast is another step. And you're a 50-year-old travelling man taking that step.
But there's a lot of things changed in the Travellers. Like, for instance, a lot of Travellers have moved into houses.
Yeah.
A lot of Travellers have emigrated and also moved into houses. There's still a lot of Travellers living in caravans. There's a lot of Travellers who have moved abroad still living in caravans. And basically, it is tradition still, the best way of saying it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's ever going to change. Because, say the old breed is how would you say it? It's hard to explain. For them living in caravans now, for the last, say, 30, 40 years, well, that was a step up alone because, as I said, they were living in tents and living in horse-drawn caravans, which was bar-top wagons. Alone then, for them to move into a caravan, such as a mobile home, it was a liberty and a comfort and a progression in life.
Yeah. And then for that caravan to be on a halting site and for that halting site to have plumbed water.
Not to be getting moved along. Like back to where my father and mother got married.
Yeah.
Going back there for a second, it would be they could be in a camp on the side of the road and might can get 2 or 3 days out of it.
Okay.
And the local guard would come along and tell them, look, you have to move along. If they got a couple of weeks out of one spot, they were delighted. They were doing very, very, very well. Considering was there a guard station nearby or one thing or another like that there. It was only when they were fully recognised then they were told to go.
Yeah, Go Move Shift. Who came up with that song?
Christy
That's
Moore, was
Christy
it?
Moore.
Was a good
Go
song.
Move Shift.
Yeah, well, that was the case. To get a couple of days and they were told to move. They could move a mile or 2 or 3 or 5 mile down the road. And then maybe it could be a month after they might come back to the same camp again.
So do you think the use of halting sites has helped or hindered travellers? Like, if you're in a halting site, obviously there's no Go Move Shift anymore, but there's also no travelling per se. You know what I mean?
There would have been,
you might travel once or twice a year.
No, for some travellers, they would. For some travellers that have a mobile home on a halting site.
Yeah.
And some of them then would have a small caravan maybe left one side.
Okay.
So if they felt like they wanted to move along for a couple of months or a couple of weeks or whatever, they hook on a small caravan and go on, but they come back to their base then.
Oh, very good.
So now that left the mobile home and the halting site left them with a base.
So you got the best of both worlds almost. You can
Like,
get on,
for instance,
you can get
you
on the
could-
road, but you're still somewhere that you could feel a bit secure for a couple of months.
Yeah, they could get into a small caravan and maybe hook on and even go to England for a couple of weeks if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Just a couple of weeks, say, and back to their base again.
What's going to
So
England?
travelling, it's the fact that the travelling thing was still stuck in them, like, if you know what I mean?
What's going to England like for you? Say for you as a travelling man, what do you get out?
Like if I was going for a week or two, like.
Yeah.
It's only a break away from home.
Yeah. And would you be going over just moseying around, or would you be going over to families and friends?
No, I'll tell you what it is. See, there'll be a lot of you might call holiday camping parks over there.
Oh yeah.
Holiday parks where you can. Sometimes you don't have to bring a caravan with you. You can book into a place over there for a week or 2 weeks, whatever length you want to stay away. Like, but sure, after that, then when you're away from home, you just like to get back to home, aren't you? You're happy to come back to your base, like, you know what I mean? But again, it's a breakaway from home, yes.
Yeah.
And as I said there, if you're going on a holiday, you would class a holiday as going to somewhere abroad, like, you know what I mean?
Where's the first somewhere abroad you went?
Lourdes.
Oh, very good.
In France. That was back in 1993, which is like 29 years ago.
Is that like I would imagine like a religious pilgrimage?
Well, Lourdes is where Our Lady appeared, and basically we went there. We were only a couple of years married. Oh yeah, it's a religious. It's a big pilgrimage ground. People come from all over the world to Lourdes.
Yeah,
where Our Lady appeared, and for me it was me and my wife back then. Back then, me and my wife went together. We were only a couple of years married, and it was a brilliant experience for us. So then our getaway, we went to Lourdes then after that, a few times after that, and he spent a week over there basically. Our next place then to go was Medjugorje. Have you ever heard of Medjugorje?
Yeah, it's another
place in Croatia where
another pilgrimage.
Now Lourdes is in France.
Yeah,
it's another pilgrimage site where Our Lady appeared.
Yeah.
On the mountain to 3 visionaries basically.
And these are holidays for you?
No, it's not exactly a holiday for me. No, it's a pilgrimage of prayer for me. Basically, it's a time for prayer and meditation, peace. It's you find a lot of peace over there in Medjugorje. A lot of people now have went to Medjugorje, like literally thousands and thousands of travellers.
And would you go if you're going there, or are you going to the one in France? Are you going with the family, the whole crew is going?
Yeah, well, I went a couple of years ago. That lockdown caused a lot of problems for people going abroad. But yeah, the family were with me. It'd be nearly 3 years ago now.
So are you itching to get back?
The family, yeah, I'd love to go back to it again. Yeah, and I will go back anyway. I know that I'll go back. Lourdes for the family. I went back out to Lourdes back in 2009. Sorry, in 2009 I went back out to Lourdes. We went out in a motor caravan. So we were still in a caravan basically, but it was a motorhome, camper they call it. Yeah, I know you were saying how many brothers and sisters I have, yeah? Yeah, I have 5 sisters.
5 sisters, yeah?
And 6 brothers.
So there's 11 children from your parents.
That's 12. That would be 12 altogether.
Oh, and you. I forgot
you
about
want
you.
to be going back to school, don't you? Huh?
In my house, there's six.
I
There's
thought
six
I
of
was
us.
only the traveller didn't have the education.
yeah.
That was
very
me.
good. So there's 12 of you.
12 of us in the family, yes.
Wow.
So the oldest will be 55.
Right.
I'm 50.
Yeah. Are you the second oldest?
How would I know? I'm 50.
Right.
There's like we'll say the two brothers oldest. Tom and brother Anthony.
Martin's counting on his fingers, by the way.
Yes. There'll be 5. I think it's 5 older than me altogether. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 5 in family older.
Can
than
I
me.
ask if they're all alive?
Yeah, all alive. Yeah.
Oh wow! And
Thank God.
do you see them, or where do they live?
Basically, some of them lives. One of them lives where I live. Some of them are actually living in houses now.
Okay.
Yeah, and say my oldest sister lived down in County Meath, Trim. Basically, my other sister is living in Navan, County Meath.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're basically all over the.
And you get to see them, chat to them.
Well, sometimes yeah, but it's very hard these days when you have a big family of your own.
12 of them. Wow.
Yeah, but it's very hard to see, as you call it, family every day.
Yeah.
When you have your own family.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but okay. So I'm asking very personal questions here, and I know, especially for a traveller man,
Yes.
asking personal questions is probably not the done thing, especially from a countryman.
Yes.
Because my experience is traveller people are kind of very private. So I'm asking you questions. There's 12 of yous. Your mammy's 75 years of age. Your daddy's passed away.
He died at 71.
He died at 71 years of age.
71 he died, yeah.
When was that?
Basically 4.5 years ago now.
4.5 years ago. So,
yeah.
So you've got brothers and sisters around the country, some of them living in England.
Mainly in Ireland, basically.
Mainly in Ireland, and some of them living in houses.
That's right, yeah.
And you're the 5th oldest.
Yes.
Or 6th oldest.
Yes.
Happy days. And what was it like growing up with all them? Were you all living together?
Yeah, we all lived together basically in a caravan, yeah. We would have had 2 caravans, like.
Okay.
So.
And where was that?
The lads would have been sleeping in one caravan.
Yeah.
And of course, the girls would have been in with my parents in their bigger caravan, like.
So the mammy and the daddy in a big caravan with all the girls.
Well, yeah, they'd be securing the girls, like.
Oh, very good.
That's how it is with travellers, like.
Very protective of the girls, more protective of the girls than the fellas.
Well, absolutely, yeah, without a doubt. All travellers are the same way when it comes to girls.
Yeah.
They shield the girls every way they can. Basically.
I think that's kind of the same for all, say, traditional married couples. If they have girls,
yeah,
the tendency would be to protect the girls more.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Yes,
but I think in the travelling community, I don't know what the right word is.
It's a
different level of protection.
No, yeah, it is a different level because it's like saying the boys have more freedom, kind of thing.
Yeah,
not to go on and do what they want to do. I'm saying like the boys would be more out and about looking for a bit of work and. Like maybe out driving or hanging around with their mates and stuff like that. Whereas girls, no.
So I'm going to throw a phrase out here that you might have heard before, and let me know what you think about it. It sounds like it's a man's world in the travelling community.
Not in a father's eyes, no.
Yeah.
He would be more. As a father myself, straight up, I'd be more concerned about my girls. Than I would about
what I'm saying is, it's a man's world. The boys can go off and do whatever.
No, not do whatever they want. No, you still keep track of them in a sense where you know, like, not that you know everywhere they're going or what they're doing. You'd still be on track with them, kind of thing. Girls, what I'm trying to say here is, boys would have more freedom than girls.
Yeah,
boys can go and mix with boys. Boys can get into a car and drive off and maybe. Whatever they want to do, go play football, go play a pool, go and get a bit of food, like dossing around with other young lads, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we wouldn't be inclined to let our girls do them things. No, absolutely not.
So can I ask a question?
That boils back to being more protective of the girls.
Say you have a 20-year-old, say you have an 18-year-old traveller boy with a car.
Yes.
Would you have an 18-year-old traveller girl with a car?
No.
That wouldn't happen.
No,
would that happen in England?
I don't know I'm not saying it wouldn't happen because I can't speak for everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't speak for every traveller, but I can tell you that every traveller I know are protective of their girls, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And basically, you're saying there, would you see girls, 17-year-old girls going around, traveller girls, in a car?
Yeah.
No, I've never seen it.
Never seen it.
No, I don't know if it's happening in parts of the world. I've never experienced. I've never seen it. No.
And that's because of it's not because they can't drive.
Well, it is. It's not because they can't drive. No.
Yeah.
The chances are they don't know how to drive.
Okay.
But it's not just because they don't. It's because parents don't like letting their girls maybe too far out of sight, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because we're living in a world of, let's say, begrudgers and judgers, if you want.
Begrudgers and judges.
Judges mainly, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy, like for.
Are you talking about within the travelling community or in general?
There's not, for some reason or another. There's not. I don't know. I can't speak for the whole world. I can speak for, say, like I say, a certain amount of travellers.
Yeah.
But it's for instance, like young lads, as I said, have that freedom of going where they want to do, and sort of people don't look upon them as much. But if a girl, for instance, a girl say walks out the gate of a site and decides to go for a wander, which it won't happen. I know it won't happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. They're inclined to be talked about.
Okay. Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying.
I do know what you're saying. Yeah, that would be
so
there would be conversation and rumour within the site about that girl because she is wandering
not
about.
just in the site, maybe probably any part of the world where there's travellers.
Yeah.
So yes. So
and I can imagine now
it's like you're protecting a girl's reputation also, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Mainly, kind of, you know now. So obviously, look, every parent wants what's best for their family, but yeah, mainly the girls.
Yeah.
So it boils back to.
So what? There's a question. What about the boys'
sometimes
reputation?
It's a hard. Sometimes no. You obviously you are concerned about a boy's reputation.
Yeah.
But somehow people don't talk or wouldn't judge a boy as much for whatever reason as a girl.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. And now when you say people, do you mean men and women? Or just,
let's say in a countryman's world, you might say girls are more vulnerable to society. That's maybe what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
there's probably words that I don't want to use, if you know what I'm saying.
Like there was a case here last year where there was a woman out running and she was on the canal and she was attacked.
She was murdered. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So now let's say the girl
kind of exposed that there is a vulnerability there.
There is, yeah. The girl might be the weaker. How would I say, the weakest link in a family.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that for sure. I'm saying I just can't find the right words to say why we like to protect our girls more.
She would be more vulnerable to attack, I think. Not the weakest link. The weakest link.
I don't mean in that sense, no.
The weakest link suggests that she's weak, but vulnerable to attack.
No. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's just a mixed up conversation, being honest about.
Yeah.
There's words there, but I can't find the right words for that.
And I think part of the reason we're doing this podcast is because I know there's a lot of stuff that, a lot of conversation in the travelling community about stuff like this, especially about young girls, that maybe doesn't happen as often as they could, and the words mightn't be there. And
take a country girl, for instance, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I know about country girls, but I'm asking you, would country girls be allowed to go to pubs, clubs, cinemas, basically allowed to go really where they want to go at 17, 18, 19, 20 years of age?
Yeah, younger than that as well.
They are allowed to do that?
Yeah. Like
well, travelling girls are not.
14, 15, 16 years of age.
Yeah.
They'd be able to work. A 17, 18-year-old girl. A 17 or 18-year-old girl would be able to go to college, get a car.
Country girls.
Yeah, country girls.
Right. So what I'm saying now as a father, I literally don't let my girls out of my sight.
Yeah.
That's been honest. It's not because I don't trust me family, basically. It's because I care so much and I'm so protective of them. There's so much wrong and bad things happen in this world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying to you now?
I do. So you don't let them out your sight, but it sounds like you also don't let them off the site.
I don't let them off the site, but I'll bring them everywhere. Anywhere they want to go, I'll bring them, in a sense where myself or my wife is with them.
Like a chaperone.
Well, if you want to use.
Wait, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm
Myself
just trying to
and my
explore it
wife
with
will
you.
always be with my girls and always have been. We wouldn't let them go anywhere on their own, without a doubt. There's no
And
mistake
when
about it.
does that
I don't know when it stops. It stops. It stops
I'm gonna
when
suggest
you right.
when there's an
It
arranged marriage.
stops when you stop worrying. But for me, I never stop worrying, so it's probably never going to stop. When girls get married,
Yeah.
then they have the husbands to say,
Protect
as the fella said, go on and do what they want in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
So is that hard?
Yeah,
You probably haven't had that situation yourself yet, but is that hard?
in what way?
Or have you? Have you been in the situation yet with your children where one of the girls has gone off and got married?
I have two girls married.
And what was the point in you where you kind of had to let go or release them?
What was the point in protecting them?
What was that feeling like?
Letting them go.
Yeah, letting them go. Now we're getting somewhere.
You missed them. Yeah, you missed them. When you get them married, no mistake.
But you're no longer there. You're no longer the number one protector, the big silverback gorilla.
No, but you still care about them and you still worry about them.
Yeah.
But also, when they're married, do you know what I mean? Of course, the husband is there to look after them as well. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just a strange. Actually a strange conversation because sometimes the answers are not there for it.
Yeah.
You ask yourself, why are we so protective? Are we too protective? Is it fair to be being too protective? It's just something that you just kind of help yourself. They're your family, you know what I mean? They're everything you have, like, you know. So you're gonna do everything you can to keep them right and keep them safe.
I'm gonna throw a phrase at you. If you love them, let them go.
No, I understand that, but there's different people dealing with have different ways of dealing with these things in life.
Yeah.
So it's not just like if you love them, let them go, throw them out the door. That's not the case. That won't be happening.
It's interesting looking at you.
You look
listening
after
to
them
you.
right until the day comes that please God, that they get married. Then you don't worry about them as much because when they're married, you feel safer about them then because why? They're starting a new life and they're going to settle down. Like when I say settle down, I don't mean settle down
like
as
a
if
settlement.
No, I don't even mean like that. What I mean, what I am saying is, they're starting off a new life, but you don't really let them go. It's in a sense where they're still your kids. It's as simple as that. They're still your kids. You still worry about them. You help them out where you can and when you can. You do what you can for them, probably till the day you die, more or less. I was in church there basically a few weeks ago, right? And there's an old lady and she's 87 years old.
Yeah.
Now she's a living saint, right? Very genuinely lovely old woman to be around because she's full of wisdom. Okay? So you can learn a lot from her basically, all through the church again, yeah? And she had a bit of a fall there not too long ago, yeah?
Yeah.
And she sort of hurt herself. Anyway, so she's taking things a bit easier. She was helping out Gray in the church. So I met her there a few weeks ago in the church and, of course, was talking to her for a few minutes. And somehow she brought up the conversation about family. And she said to me in a very low and lonely voice, she said, Martin, she said, that family, she said, takes your life away.
Yeah.
So I sort of knew what she was talking about, but I wanted to, sort of hear what she wanted to say. So I said, in what sense? She said, I'm 87 years old, she said. Now, she has a daughter of 60 or 65, something like that anyway.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. So she said, you never stop worrying about them, she said.
Yeah.
Your life is based on worrying about them. That's what she told me. Now she's 87 years old.
Yeah.
She hasn't stopped worrying and she won't stop worrying. She said, I'll worry till the day I die.
Every moment of every day for the rest of her life since he had those kids, she has them in her head and her heart.
Yeah.
And she's thinking about them.
But not just thinking about them, she's worrying about them
She's
also.
worrying about them.
Yeah.
I'm really blown away and happy that you've had discussions like this, and I'm just seeing you getting into it and more animated and relaxing in these podcasts, and just this is the Martin that I know. It's the unscripted Martin. It's the free flow conversation, and I think that's one of the most fascinating things about
it's
what
good to
we're
have.
doing here.
Yeah, it is good to have the conversation, but at the same time, I don't want to be offending anybody. So I'm sort of talking from my own experience as well. You know what I mean.
And
but I also know, I know a lot of travellers who sort of live the same way, very protective of their families, especially their girls.
Yeah.
Now I don't want to go back all into that again.
I want to go back into it for a second, because you said when she gets married, she goes off. What happens? Because I know what happens in the settled community if a girl doesn't get married.
Yeah.
If a traveller girl doesn't get married,
yes.
Where are they? What do they do? Can I ask that question?
Well, let's put it this way. There are probably questions I don't want to answer.
Yeah.
Because at the moment my two older girls are married.
Yeah.
So I don't want to answer that question because I don't want to offend anybody else.
Yeah.
Like there probably is people there with who has girls. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't speak of anybody or point a finger at anybody. I don't know these things. What I am saying is I wouldn't be in a position to answer that question because, as I said, my two oldest girls are married.
Let's say a traveller fella. Let's say a traveller man.
Yeah.
Because I know a couple of traveller men who are in their 20s and they're not married.
Yeah, because the traveller young lad seems to somehow, I'm not saying in a sense of taking life easy, he seems to be more laid back. Some of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
Some of the traveller young lads are more laid back now because they want to get out there and work. They want to do a little bit more hanging around with their buddies.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong or they're making wrong decisions in life. They're probably setting themselves up in a better way where maybe preparing themselves better for marriage, like, you know what I mean? So like years ago, young lads, even including myself, would have been married at 17 and 18, maybe 19 years old. Nowadays you have young lads, as you said, 20, 21, 24, 25, that kind of age. And that's not saying they won't get married. That are like single, basically, yeah.
And in the settled community, you have lads who are in their mid-30s at home with their mammy still playing the PlayStation.
Well, there you go then, see. But go back 30 years ago, young lads were more inclined to be married at 18, 19, 20 years of age.
So I think across society that's changing.
Yeah.
That's changing. It's different. I know, like, my kind of first serious relationship was like 20 years of age, nearly getting married and buying a house and all that. What age was it for you when you met?
I was basically
your wife.
I was 19 when I got married.
Yeah,
just a couple of months shy of 19. My wife was 17 and a couple of months off. Say 17, almost 17 and a half.
And can I ask where you met her?
I met her in. She was actually living in Blanchardstown.
Right. In a house or a
in a caravan.
In a caravan.
In a caravan, yeah.
And was that arranged or did you just?
No, it wasn't arranged. I basically went and asked her. Went to her parents basically.
Yeah.
Myself and say my father and mother was with me.
Okay.
We went out there. We were living in Ballymun.
You were in Ballymun. She was in Blanche.
She was
you brought your mommy and daddy over to meet her mommy and daddy.
And we asked, of course. Didn't ask her directly. We asked,
hold on,
probably a broom or a brush or a pan or something. But
that's funny.
We of course asked the parents. The parents asked the parents. You know what I'm saying?
Can I ask you how you knew she existed?
You can, yeah. I actually only seen her once. Matter of fact.
You're going a bit red there now.
No, I know that, but sure, that's life, isn't it? I seen her once, and it wasn't long after than before. Well, of course, I knew, say, of her family. My parents knew her family, and
can I ask her family name?
Her parents obviously knew my family, who they were. Her family name, she was O'Donnell before she got married. Before we got married, yeah.
I'm asking loads of personal questions here.
Yeah, but don't get carried away there, won't you?
No, but I'm not. But it's really interesting. So thanks for answering them.
Yeah, that was it. That was 31 years ago.
31 years ago.
Yeah.
So you weren't going out with her?
No.
And you seen her once, and then you asked for the marriage. You asked her parents for the marriage.
Yeah.
Wow.
but I knew of her family, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, you knew of the O'Donnells and Blanchardstown.
Yes, and my parents knew her parents well, basically, very well, like.
Yeah. But
So
you were the one who made
it was the best
decision.
thing I ever done.
Was it?
But
That's lovely.
yeah. But that was like that's how it happened. So I asked, and of course, the wedding goes on, as you call it.
No, hold on.
The wedding
First of
was
all, she said yes.
Yes, that's
and
what I'm
then
saying.
you went, you.
No, I'll tell you how it works is that if a boy wants to ask a girl, he'll ask, say either his father or his himself will contact the girl's father, ask for permission to ask her.
Yeah.
So if everything is okay, then of course he's got to go and ask her, doesn't he?
You can put the shotgun away.
Yeah. And then that's how it is today again. Still, like
Is it?
yeah, is that there isn't really now. There's no arranged weddings and travellers.
But is there?
I don't know of any travellers now that's having arranged weddings.
Is there dating?
No, not on my clan.
Not in your club, but in
No.
travellers, would you know of dating in travellers
No.
without giving anybody's business away?
Seriously, no, I don't know of a lot of travellers who actually allow their girls to date. If a boy wants to ask a girl, he's got to do it right. Ask the parents and go and ask. Then, if the parent says yes, of course it's okay to ask her, or they'll probably mention to the girl. If she says yes or no, if it's no, it's going to be embarrassing one, of course.
Is it easy to take, or is there any kind of animosity?
Well,
or
I can't
fight
answer
or
that
anything?
question because I don't know how. I don't know. It depends.
You got a yes.
I got a yes. Thanks, God, yeah. If a young lad, it depends how. Maybe it probably all depends how much a young lad likes a girl, or
Yeah,
how well he knows the family, or you know what I'm saying,
yeah.
or like how long he's planning to ask a girl and stuff like that.
So in the
So it's still not an arranged wedding, if you know what I'm saying.
no, it's not an arranged wedding. What it is
Like there has been weddings in the past with travellers years and years ago, where the travellers they'd be in the pubs drinking,
yeah.
and they come home and tell whatever the boy and the girl, you're getting married.
So that's
Who am I getting married to? You don't even know who you're getting married to. So this has happened.
is that mainly gone now?
It's gone, yeah.
Yeah,
It's gone.
and now it is the traveller boy would talk to his parents and then talk to her
Maybe
parents.
let the parents know he wants to ask a girl, and then, of course, his parents, either himself or the parent, the father would contact the other father and say, look, my young lad wants to go over and ask your girl, or then, of course, they mention to the girl, and if the girl says, well, whatever.
So there's generally no dating. It's straight in, no kissing, married.
No, not just ask her, and if she says yes, start preparing the wedding.
Start around the wedding. And when do you meet her?
Well, it depends when there would be an engagement. So some people have engagements, some people have they call it a do for an engagement,
Yeah.
and some people don't.
It's a real old
Yeah, they
word.
call it a do.
We're having a do.
It's like booking out a pub and having maybe a cake and some drink and food and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
And
then
would him and her have been together before that?
no,
Still today, like?
yeah, absolutely not.
Wow.
Yeah, 1,000,000% not. Then say they'd have the engagement, then say of course exchange whatever engagement rings, and then the next thing is the big day, the wedding.
Because that's not how it is.
Do you find all that strange? You do.
Well, it's definitely not how it is in the settled community or the countryman, the way you
So
call
how
it.
is it in the countryman's way then?
Just to be clear, you call countrymen. We don't call ourselves countrymen or settled people. We
But you're a
just,
countryman to me.
yeah, I know that. So, but just to be clear, how is it in? Well, nowadays, it's you ask a girl out, or you hit her up on Tinder, or you go through some kind of app.
So you're saying it's all done by media now, is it?
It could be done by text or by WhatsApp. You'd go out and you date somebody. You like them or you don't. If you don't like them, you'll move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the idea of a marriage is probably something that could be 10 years into a relationship that idea will
Before a wedding would happen. Like.
before a wedding will happen.
Yeah.
It'll be dating until it gets serious. And then you get serious as in you're hanging out with each other a lot, you're with each other, you're in each other's houses, you're kissing and hugging and making out.
Probably having kids and that, yeah.
Probably having kids and all,
Well,
yeah, absolutely
that's
having
why,
kids.
that's where now travellers have different cultures.
So that's not
different
just different,
lifestyles.
that's two different worlds.
It is two different worlds.
Totally two different
Yeah.
worlds.
But I think I still think travellers are entitled to live in that sense as they want to live. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I just think it's so different.
Yeah.
And it's not, I wouldn't imagine it's just travellers in this country, for example, that live like that. I'm sure there's other communities that have similar traditions that they still abide by.
Yeah. Well, probably everybody's different in the end.
Yeah. But I definitely know, maybe for people listening to this who aren't travellers, who are maybe, you know, the typical Irish man or woman,
Yeah.
to listen to hear that that's the way it still goes on in the travelling community with boys and girls, men and women.
Yeah.
That you generally you don't get together until the do, and the first thing you're doing is getting married.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're settling down and you're having a family, and then the daddy's back in the caravan, sweating, thinking, "Is this fella the fella for my girl, or do I have to go over and take her back?"
Yeah. It boils back down to one thing again: parents worrying about their kids, isn't it?
Parents worrying about their kids.
But there's something to do. It's a built-in thing. You just can't help that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you were asking me how many kids I had. Is that where they were? Yeah.
I was asking, what's the setup? How are you? What's your family? How many's there?
I have 9 kids.
9 kids, yeah.
9 kids, yeah. I've 4 girls and say 5 boys. So it is still a big family. But that's just it's a traveller thing, probably.
It's what they would call a Catholic family.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. The big families.
Big families,
That's true.
Yeah, it is like the families in the 80s. Like there's loads of families in Ballymun with 12, 13, 14 kids. Like,
yeah,
you know?
there's some travellers like that has like seriously 17, 18, 19 kids.
Still today, like yeah.
No, I don't think today, no.
Yeah, I think generally most people are having 3, 4 maybe kids.
The old saying was they had no TV, no television.
There was no heating in the caravan. That's what they used to say here.
Yeah.
The radiators weren't on.
Yeah.
They couldn't afford to put coal in the fire, so they had to keep each other warm.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all right to talk about that now, is it?
No.
So I'm finding the conversations I can and can't have with you are really, really interesting. And I'm sure over the next couple of episodes, we're going to explore different topics, different things that, for me, as a person who's not a traveller or I'm a settled man, I just take for granted. Like, that's why I said before, I'm fascinated by the parts of the travelling culture that are the same and that are different to settled culture.
Yeah. There's again, I'm talking about when I say about travellers with girls and what, that's my own experience, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't say I can speak for a million travellers.
No, but I think that the best conversations are from your experience. But you also have experience of other people, other families that most people wouldn't have. So in that way, there's an insight there. There's like, it'd be like if there was a group of people like the Aboriginal people in Australia. I would be as fascinated by them.
About their story, their life story.
Their story, about how they live, about what's important to them, what values they have.
It's all back to again to the one thing, all different cultures.
Yeah.
And different ways of living, yes. But yeah, I think everybody's story is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think one thing that I find is, here's an example. I was doing some talks with people from Northern Ireland, okay? Now, I say Northern Ireland like it's a whole different world away, and it kind of is and kind of isn't. These were Protestants and Unionists and Catholics and Loyalists, right?
Yeah.
And there was some kind of animosity where, we can't talk to them, they're not the same as us, and we have a whole history and we can't talk about each other. But anyway, we got a load of people together in Ballymun and a few different places. It was around the time when there was a lot of Brexit talk, and there was a lot of possibility that it might kick off in Northern Ireland again. So we had these conversations. You know, you had Sinn Féin people, IRA people, UVF people, all these types of people in the room. A lot of them women. And what we learned was we've more in common,
yes,
than divides us, or that we have different. At a human, at a basic level, we have the same kind of basic needs, the same kind of living conditions, the same kind of fears, the same kind of ideas about our families. There's none of us was millionaires. We were all kind of, just like normal working class, get up out of bed in the morning people. There's none of us had stocks and shares in Google and all this type of, that type of money.
Yes.
What was really interesting and refreshing was we had more in common. We had more that brought us together than divided us.
So basically everybody was the same in a sense.
Yeah, and if we look at the divisions, we'll find them. But if we look at the things that we have in common, we'll find them as well.
If you're in all situations, if you look for negativity, there's lots of it.
It's all there.
Plenty of it. But if you look for the positive things in life, there's also a lot of that there.
Yeah, like I could tear the back off you going, there's no way traveller women should be A, B, C and D. But that's not my place to say it. One is I'm not a woman. One is I'm not a traveller. One is I'm not a member of your family.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And you could say the same to me. You could go, but settled people are doing
It's very easy. Yeah, it's very easy for people to point out people's faults. As I said, negativity again. But for looking for the positive side of things, it's something that a lot of people don't do.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying everybody. There is some good people out there that will look for the good in other people. There's no doubt about that, or situations.
Well, I think one of the reasons we might do that...
There's too much of negativeness.
One of the things we might do negative things for, or look for the negative, or the drama, or that type of thing, is because of where we are as people. If we're vulnerable and insecure and frightened in ourselves, and we're looking outside of ourselves and blaming and pointing the fingers...
That's right.
We're always going to drive towards the negative stuff.
That's right.
And what other people have done bad on me, or what other people aren't doing for me. But if you're, and this is a journey that we all have to go on, if you're comfortable with who you are as a person, man, woman, child, traveller, black, Muslim, if you're comfortable with who you are and you're at peace with yourself, you'll be comfortable with other people and at peace with them. So I think you're a traveller man. You're one of a number of travelling men. There's a number of different cultures in this country and around the world. And at the moment, I'm really interested in that culture. Because I've always been interested in different cultures.
The traveller's culture, basically.
But travelling culture, Muslim culture.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what it's like to live up in Northern Ireland. I'm interested in what it's like to grow up in London as a young black man. I find people fascinating.
Yes.
And I always look for the possibilities for us to have a conversation about stuff that we all find difficult to talk about.
Yes.
Because that's where, for me, that's where the learning is. That's where the growth is.
Well, that's why it's nice to get the story part from the person themselves, because as I said, everybody has a story to tell, like, and 99% of the time the stories are interesting.
And where do we get our stories from? Sometimes it's not from the horse's mouth.
No, that's right.
Sometimes it's third party, and it's hearsay, speculation, and rumor. And if that's where we get our stories from, it's not as rich as getting it from the person themselves, from their mouth, 100. Face to face. This is who I am. Who are you? Yeah. Can we share a conversation together?
Yeah, it can be very interesting, can't it?
So that's us for this episode, a Traveller and a Countryman podcast. If you like it, let us know, share it around, and we'll see you on the road.
Best of luck, boys.
Best of luck, girls.